Okay. Alright.
Are you recording?
Yep, I'm recording.
Alright, let me just set a timer. Alright. 45 minutes, okay? Alright, go ahead.
Okay, so, Dad.
Yes.
Have you ever read Donald Trump Jr.'s book, Triggered?
I have not.
But, How the Left Thrives on Hate and Wants to Silence Us?
Okay, I don't know anything about that book.
I don't know
I
anything.
mean, it's ostensibly written by Donald Trump Jr.
It's not really. I mean, it's obvious it's
I
been
said
ghostwritten.
ostensibly.
Yeah, but like.
I mean, maybe he contributed something to making the book. Perhaps he did.
Maybe. So, one of my favorite things here is we got advance praise for Triggered.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know what that means. Does that mean like they're asking you to praise Triggered?
No, what happens is they'll send like review copies to different people, and then they will provide reviews before the book comes out. So that way, when it comes out, there's blurbs written on the back of the book, like this one.
Cool. I don't know why they weren't able to write a blurb for the back of it. Instead, they just put like praise. So
that's what that is. Those are blurbs.
Oh.
So those people read the book before it was published.
Okay. Like, is that what like your mom did?
Mm-hmm.
That's cool. Donald Trump Jr.'s authenticity has galvanized millions of Americans, and this book highlights how his energy has helped fuel the GOP across the country. He and his father have helped inspire our country to turn back the troubling trend of socialism and censorship. Ooh. As a victim of left-wing political violence, Donald Trump Jr.'s book hits close to home for me and my family. A great read.
Political violence, huh?
Yeah. I bet you can guess who wrote this review.
Who?
I'm going to say after I read all of these. Every day, the left makes outrageous claims and expects everyone else to just accept them as fact. They are relentless in their push to silence any voice that dares to contradict them. Donald Trump Jr. has taken on the fight to expose their hypocrisy, and his new book will encourage and equip you to do the same. A must read. And my favorite. For far too long, the left hammered away at our values and we did nothing. Donald Trump Jr.'s new book is a roadmap on how we fight back.
Huh. Okay.
And guess who the people that said this, Representative Kevin McCarthy, RCA, House Minority Whip.
Okay.
Senator Rand Paul, who's the one that said, as a victim of left-wing political violence.
Wasn't that just a dispute with his neighbor about, like, the property line or whether the lawn was mowed or something like that?
What do you mean? What did Rand Paul do? I don't follow.
Well, Rand Paul was, like, attacked by his neighbor, but I don't think it had anything to do with left-wing politics. Maybe.
Would you think that's
maybe
what
it
he's
did? Or was he? Was he part of the group that got shot at the baseball game?
I have no idea.
I don't know. I'm not sure to what he's referring, but I could be just ignorant of the fact.
Representative Mark Meadows, RNC Chairman, Congressional Freedom Caucus, and my favorite, Senator Ted Cruz. The ugliest person on the planet.
I don't think that's true.
I don't think so either. I think Tekashi 6ix9ine is the ugliest person on the planet.
I'm just thinking like, Ted Cruz is awfully opportunistic. He was, well, whatever. I mean, maybe he believes, probably what he said about, like, how the left has, like, attacked values and stuff like that. He probably believes that. I don't think he's being disingenuous. I don't have a whole lot of, I don't know. I'm not a big fan of Mark Meadows, but whatever. Okay.
I know that his college roommate really hates Ted Cruz.
Ted Cruz's college roommate?
Yeah.
No? I don't
No.
know.
Let's Let's actually read the book. I rented this from the library, so I better not get it dirty.
You borrowed it from the library.
Borrowed it, yeah.
Yes, don't get chocolate on it. You're the first person to check that out, I wonder?
Maybe. I mean, it came in a couple days before.
Yeah, it didn't have any holds on it. That's interesting. Maybe it's not something that a lot of people are wanting to read from the library.
I don't even think that people agree with Trump Jr. would want to read this. Like,
I guess it doesn't have a whole lot of appeal to me beyond sheer morbid curiosity. Like, I mean, here's the thing: is like, even if I agreed with Trump, and I don't, like, I don't think Donald Trump Jr. has a particular reputation for, like, commentary on social issues or anything like that. I guess he's not the first person that I would think of as, like, a defender of these right-wing ideals.
I think the first person I would think of is Steven Crowder.
Steven Crowder is pretty beyond the pale.
Or Milo Yiannopoulos.
Also beyond
He's
the pale.
gay, so I mean, he must not be totally right?
I don't know how to respond to what you're saying.
Milo Yiannopoulos is...
I know that, but I guess Milo Yiannopoulos doesn't really have a great reputation. I'm thinking it might be somebody more like Charlie Kirk. Even though I think Charlie Kirk is kind of a bad spokesman for the cause, he seems a little bit more, I don't know. It seems like the right has largely lost their, like most of the intellectual people on the right wing that I was aware of are fairly ambivalent about Trump, or they are, pretty much opposed to him. So
I dedicate this book to the deplorables, all caps, while the elite of the other party look down on you and would rather you stay silent. I salute your work ethic, patriotism, and values. America wouldn't be great without your blood, sweat, and tears. I will always stand with you. I am proudly one of you. Yeah. I can tell that he's, very middle class. We all know how Donald Trump Jr. is the most hard-working coal miner, factory worker, redneck guy ever. And it's not like he's just saying this to pander to his audience because he's never worked a hard day in his life ever. Right?
I don't know what Donald Trump has done, honestly. Apart from...
destroy Atlantic City.
I mean Donald Trump Jr. I don't know what he's particularly achieved, but whatever.
I don't like Donald Trump, right? And I think he gained where most of where he came from nepotism. Can you hold this? I just want to make sure the camera's rolling.
Wait, who are we talking about here? Donald Trump Jr.?
Donald Trump Jr. and Donald Trump. I'm talking to both of them. I mean, I don't like Donald Trump, right? Mm-hmm. But and he gained most of where he came from nepotism, from his dad, Fred Trump. But he at least did stuff. I think Donald Trump Jr. has gained exactly where he is from nepotism. He has never worked, ever.
I mean, I don't know that he has or hasn't. I mean, I'm not sure what he does, but I don't know. I mean, I just don't know that much about him. He's one of those people, like, it's unclear exactly what he does. But whatever. I mean, doesn't he run the Trump organization together with his sister and brother? I don't know.
One of his brothers and one of his sisters.
Oh, well, yeah. Granted.
It's kind of hard to forget. It's kind of easy to forget that Donald Trump has, 5 children.
Okay.
Okay, so we got contents, table of contents. Trigger warning. Counterpunch. cracks in the foundation, class warfare, gap year, not exactly the Statue of Liberty, not your grandfather's Democratic Party, back to school, election night, a deadly form of hate, misgendered, the enemy of the people, question mark, shadow banned, how the liberals' grip on social media can ruin your life. You know, I'd say that's probably the most inaccurate thing he said so far. I mean, I'm not saying that there aren't extreme left politics people that I think are crazy, but, like, there are a lot more right-wing people on the internet, or at least people that have more, like, prominence, like...
Yeah. I don't know.
The late night king of comedy with Jussie Smollett and the Foxtrot... And the Foxtrot Orchestra. What's that? Foxtrot?
The Foutrage. It's faux, and then it's a portmanteau word of faux, which means false, and outrage. I don't know how you pronounce that.
You know,
outrage, fautrage.
I know Jussie Smollett is a correspondent for The Daily Show, but I didn't know any of this stuff. Also,
It's just scoring cultural war points against The Daily Show. They've been doing that ever since I was in college.
Yeah, but why is Jussie Smollett the guy they decided to go against?
I don't know.
Why didn't they go against Trevor Noah, or Desi Lydic, or
maybe in the chapter it will reveal
Roy Wood Jr.? Because those are all people that are way more right wing and way more involved than Jussie Smollett.
Well, maybe it will tell us if we read that chapter.
Joe China, the opposition, Trump 2020. I love how they forgot to put a space between Trump and 2020. Acknowledgements and endnotes.
Okay, endnotes, eh? Wow.
Yeah.
Fancy.
Yeah. So we can all say that Trump hires the best writers. I'm probably just going to be calling him Trump because...
It's really confusing because he has the same name as somebody else who's extremely famous.
Yeah.
Like, who he happens to be related to.
Yeah, and also, you know, I'm going to be talking about Trump and Trump Jr., so it's going to get confusing.
Okay, maybe you should just say Trump and Trump Jr.
I could just say Trump and Trump Sr. then.
Or you could do that.
Because I'm probably going to talk about Trump less than Trump Jr.
Yeah, well, who knows?
I mean, this is his book, Trump Jr.'s book, so...
Yeah.
Okay. What do you think the first line of the book is?
Trigger warning?
No. Well, yeah, that's the title of the chapter, but no, the very first line is, I'm not mad. Like, he didn't write this book exactly because he was mad.
Maybe he's not mad. Maybe he's experiencing some other form of emotion.
Like what?
Is that chocolate?
No, that's not chocolate. That's a dead stink bug.
Gross. I don't know. So anyway, go on.
Look, everybody is called a traitor once or twice in their lives. Have you ever been called a traitor?
Not to my recollection.
Has Mom ever been called a traitor?
You'd have to ask her. But
I've never been called a traitor.
Well, you're not that old yet.
Yeah, I know, but like, is that a thing? Do you know people that are called traitors?
Maybe in politics it's fairly common.
Yeah.
I've never been called a traitor as far as I can remember. And if I were, I apparently didn't leave much of an impression on me, so. Maybe I will be at some point.
Yeah, traitor.
Don't call me a traitor.
I wouldn't. No, I wouldn't. Everybody gets falsely accused of wrongly investigated by and wrongly investigated by the FBI? What are you talking about? Now, even if you said that he was actually wrongly investigated by the FBI, very few people are ever investigated by the FBI.
I would encourage you to finish this paragraph because maybe he comments on that.
Okay.
Maybe he's using it for rhetorical effect.
And has to testify in front of Congress for over 30 hours, answering the same stupid, politically motivated question over and over again. Oh yeah, he was saying it because he's saying,
being ironic.
Yeah, I guess I didn't catch that. And don't they? And everybody has an army of social justice warriors combing through every word they've ever said online to find something to be offended by, correct? Well, I wouldn't call them social justice warriors. I'd call them people that want to find what you said and what you believe, but whatever.
I pretty much automatically ignore anyone who unironically uses the term social justice warrior.
I mean, I can understand it as like if people are saying, oh, those social justice warriors, and yeah, they're stupid. But like, you know, I can understand there are some times where it's like, people go way to the extreme of like, trying to be inclusive, but that's very rarely the case.
How can you be an extremist inclusive?
There are people that believe that, you know, white men shouldn't even be in the media.
I don't know anyone who actually believes that. I don't...
Yeah, I know, it's uncommon, but you see it sometimes online.
I really don't think there's anyone who has that position. I really don't.
Okay. First of all, I love how they say, falsely accused and wrongly investigated by the FBI, as if they were falsely accused and investigated.
I need more context. I don't even know what he's talking about.
I haven't even gotten through the paragraph yet, and I've just gotten so mad already. Got triggered.
Well, it does say trigger warning there.
Yeah, trigger warning. I know. But that's why we're reading the book, right?
I just find the whole use of, like, talking about how people are super sensitive and snowflakes and using triggered as an epithet just so tiresome.
Yeah. Because I bet he gets triggered sometimes. I mean, he's gotten triggered already. He's like, everybody gets falsely accused and wrongly investigated by the FBI. The very first sentence.
Let's finish this paragraph.
Was just him being triggered. Okay. Combing through every word they've ever said online to find something to be offended by, correct? Now, most famous people do have people that comb through everything they've ever said to see if they've said anything wrong, honestly.
I mean, that probably happens quite a bit to people who are in the public eye.
Especially Donald Trump Jr. He's like a huge figure and one of the most popular people in America right now.
Okay.
So I'm just saying, you know, yeah, it's understandable that people are looking through things that, you know, you said in the past to see if you're racist or not. Because if you said things that are racist, then we should probably take it into account to see if you're qualified to be involved in the Oval Office or not. Why should I be mad? I'm not mad. In fact, my plan was to write a feel-good book about forgiveness and healing, sort of a chicken soup for the political soul type of story. I was even going to call it Kumbaya instead of Triggered, but it seemed that title was already taken, probably by one of the 2,467 Democrat candidates currently running for president.
That's not very funny. It's just not a very good use of... It's an attempt at humor, and it falls flat.
You know, it seems like this guy is obviously trying to trigger us. I feel like that's the point of the book, is just to make us mad, so we can be like, look, I was right? I gained more political realism because these people are mad at the clearly offensive things I'm saying.
But
look at me.
So far, he hasn't said anything offensive.
Yes, I know, but like, come on.
It's just really dumb.
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry if you're watching Donald Trump Jr. You're not very funny.
Well, he didn't write this, so I mean, maybe we shouldn't be.
Well, your ghostwriter's not very funny then.
So instead of chicken soup, over the next 300 pages or so, I'll take you on a tour of all the craziest, most destructive ideas that the left has come up with in the last decade or more. Think of it as a trip through Jurassic Park, only instead of dangerous dinosaurs, you get to see sleepy liberal losers, socialists, cyber crybabies, and hypocritical politicians and media. If you decide to come along, I promise that nothing will jump into the car with us.
Wait a minute. Again, not funny, but this is a best-selling book.
Really? Is it a best-selling book?
This is a bestseller. This is a New York Times bestseller.
Where's it? I feel like they would say it on the front if it was a New York Times bestseller.
Well, it didn't become a New York Times bestseller till it was published.
But, whatever.
Anyway, the reason I'm commenting on that is because this writing is just not very good.
You know, I think the reason it's become a New York Times bestseller is because Donald Trump Jr. wrote the book, or well, he says he did. So
I think I could write a better book.
Yeah.
But kudos to him, he actually wrote it and I didn't. So
well, kudos to his ghostwriter.
Well, his ghostwriter. Somebody wrote that book and I didn't. And somebody's getting money for it.
You know, I gotta say though,
I wonder how I can publish a book like this. Maybe I can become a ghostwriter.
You know, I love how socialist has become like an insult. Like, socialism isn't bad.
Well, you know, for a long time in the political discourse in our country, we have used socialist as kind of an epithet that's like, it's negative.
But now it's not really.
Well, one of the things is that, the things that I've noticed in the last 5 years or so, is that on the right, they overuse the appellation socialist so much that people are starting to embrace the term, even though they're not maybe really socialists. Somebody like
Me.
AOC, or you.
Yeah.
Like...
Me. Just as important as AOC.
You're not really... Like, okay, so you may be embracing certain market socialist ideas like... Or socialized medicine, for example. Medicare for all.
Yeah.
So that's an example of a particular market that becomes socialized. We already have socialized medicine in this country. It's just that it's socialized by private corporations rather than by the government. But whatever, that's actually the model that we have for paying for healthcare for a lot of people. So we talk about something like Medicare for all, which is sort of bog standard in a lot of other developed countries. And we say that that's socialist. Well, I guess there's a sense in which it's socialist, but it's not a planned economy, or it's not saying, you know, there can't be private ownership or anything like that. It's just in this particular market, there are all kinds of bad effects to private ownership.
Especially for, like, you know, Medicare for all, because people, you know, medicine should be something that everybody gets. Like, regardless of whether they're breaking the law or whatever.
So you're making a moral argument for, you know, we should make an exception for this particular kind of service, and socialize that. And that's actually the calculus that, like, for example, when we lived in Australia, that they more or less come to.
Yeah, right? I know. Look at those dirty socialists in Australia.
Yeah, Australia is not a socialist country, but we had socialized medicine. So they're using socialist in that way just to refer to sort of maybe, I don't know, Scandinavian style social democracy. And because they're using that language so much, people have started to embrace the term.
Yeah, which now
the thing is, like,
power, don't you think?
What?
Now, considering that people are embracing the term, it kind of dampens the power of it.
Yeah, so somebody like Bernie Sanders really, I think, is kind of a Roosevelt-style Democrat. Maybe not Bernie Sanders. Like, he's really very ideological. Maybe Elizabeth Warren is a better example. Like, there's really... She is to the right of FDR. I think. And FDR used to be the standard bearer for the Democratic Party. In fact, he was president longer than anyone else in history.
Yeah, because everybody loved him.
He was very. I mean, not everybody. Obviously, a lot of Republicans had problems with him, and they would still have problems with him.
But he's a lot better than Reagan or Nixon.
Yeah, I mean, I don't know.
Also, I love how he says hypocritical politicians and media. Like he's not a hypocritical politician in the media.
He's not really a politician.
Well, he does work for Donald Trump's campaign.
He's
so.
politician adjacent.
He does get paid as an official aide for Trump's campaign, if I'm right.
Okay.
And he does work for Trump, which means that he is technically a politician.
It's unclear to me exactly what role he plays.
He's the role called the gets money without doing anything role.
Well, he must do something. I mean, he had time to write this book.
He didn't write this book.
Well, he must do something. I don't think he just sits around and plays video games all day.
I mean that's the life. So maybe I should be doing this. Maybe this is what I should be doing.
You should be ghostwriting for Donald Trump Jr.
Yeah, I mean if I get to sit around all day and play video games.
I don't think that's what Donald Trump Jr. does. He's got speaking engagements and he's got stuff to do with the company, I guess.
Yeah, but still, he doesn't really do very
It's just
much.
unclear, like, how much of it is, like, he works for Donald Trump personally and how much of it is he works for Donald Trump's campaign and how much of it is he works for Donald Trump, the President of the United States. Those are kind of three different things, but whatever. Go ahead.
I have to check the camera again because sometimes it turns off. Yeah, it's still on. It's really annoying.
Alright, let's keep going.
We're only 2 pages in. Or not even 2 pages in. It's just like 1 page in. You'll also get to find out a little about me during the ride, if only as a way to dispel the conspiracy theory on the left that I was born with horns. Is that a real conspiracy theory? Or, I mean, I know he's being, like, ironic, but...
He's being facetious there.
He's being an idiot.
Obviously, there's no conspiracy theory that he was born with horns. That's an anti-Semitic trope, by the way.
Anti-Semitic trope? What do you mean?
It's an anti-Semitic trope. The idea that somebody's got horns.
Do people... Has anyone ever been born with horns? Is that, like, a real thing?
I don't think so.
Well, I mean, there have been left-wing conspiracy theories, like Jeffrey Epstein didn't kill himself.
I think that's a right-wing conspiracy theory now.
Really?
Yeah. It's hard to keep up.
Why?
I don't know.
I thought that the point was that it was, like, left-wing, because if it was right-wing, then it wouldn't make any sense.
It's a right-wing conspiracy. It's been adopted by the right wing.
This is stupid. Before we get going, however, I need to make a few disclaimers. If you've been around lawyers as much as I have lately, you begin to think like them. Okay, so I'm just gonna guess that the next paragraph is gonna saying like this is just my opinion. So let's read. First, I am not operating in my official capacity as a spokesman for my father's campaign in these pages. So if I were to say something like, "Oh, I don't know, Adam Schiff is a lying ass clown," or "Robert Mueller is a feeble old fool who got used to the Democrats," you know, if I were hypothetically say those things, that's all just my opinion. No one in the campaign has been consulted, and I doubt any of them would care very much anyhow. I'm just saying what they all know to be true, but don't want to take the heat for saying in public. I guess that's just one of those things that got passed down in the genes. Well,
I think that's the use of paralipsis, which is a rhetorical device that allows you to say something without actually saying it.
It's basically because he could just claim anything in this book as a joke.
Mm-hmm.
Which means, why don't we just never hold anybody accountable? Because they could just be saying, "Oh, well, I was just joking," right?
Well, that's actually, like, fundamentally, that's one of the major rhetorical devices that Donald Trump, the President of the United States, uses, is paralipsis. which enables him to say things, but then have plausible deniability that he didn't really mean it later.
Yeah, especially considering the fact that he said Robert Mueller is a feeble. Okay, so
I don't think Robert Mueller is a feeble old fool.
look, I'm gonna just say though that I think that I'm pretty sure that he's implying that these things that he's saying right here are his actual opinion. But it's gonna come out that he's just saying this is a joke. But let's see.
He's not a feeble old fool.
And Adam Schiff is a lying ass clown. Who's
Adam Schiff?
Schiff? Who's that? Adam Schiff?
He's a Democratic member of Congress.
And we all know that Robert Mueller is a feeble old fool who got used to the Democrats. I don't even know what that means.
Who got used to the Democrats?
Used by the Democrats. Sorry.
He's not feeble.
Well, I mean, we can't deny that he was used by the Democrats.
Not in the sense that he means.
Yeah, but still, he was. I mean,
whatever.
I mean, technically, Donald Trump Jr. is being used by Donald Trump.
He was appointed by a Republican. But anyway,
is that guy still in like Congress? Was that the guy that became independent?
No, this had nothing to do with Congress.
I don't know. I'm just.
He was appointed by the Deputy Attorney General.
I always get confused.
Rod Rosenstein.
Was he fired?
Maybe.
I mean, I don't know. Everybody gets fired now, so.
Wait long enough, you're eventually fired.
Yeah, including Trump. I'm excited for that day. Second, as much as I might joke around, I am not actively trying to offend anyone with what I'm saying, which is a lie. I'm just making arguments I'm backing them up with facts and not sourcing them at all, and putting them out into the world, the same way millions of people have done with millions of books before mine. I would actually like to think of this book as offering a reasonable antidote to the hysterical bullshit that's flying around right now that used to be called discourse, but today discourse exists only for leftists. When controversies do it, they call it hate speech.
When conservatives do it, they call it hate speech.
I also know that as the son of a rich white guy living in 2019, I'm essentially not allowed to have an opinion anymore. Let me alone express that opinion in public. It's let alone express that opinion in public. That's such a white thing to say. I take it back. Crocs making actual shoes is now not the whitest thing ever. This is the whitest thing ever.
You know, it's not helping your position to use white as an insult.
Yeah, against...
But it's ridiculous that he could say that.
Yeah.
As the son of a rich white man, that he's not allowed to have an opinion. Of course he is. You know that, like... And he's obviously got a forum for expressing his opinions because he's got a best-selling book, which there's no way he could have a best-selling book if he were not the son of a rich white man who also happened to be the president of the United States. Also, I'm saying if he wasn't allowed to express that opinion in public, do you think that this book would have, first, been made, and second, been read by anyone? No, I do not believe it would be. Because if... He's clearly, like, the fact that this book exists is... It's kind of disproving what he's saying here. Yes. Especially considering, like, I bet that if people really tried, they could just make it seem like this book never got made. But that didn't happen. It blew up. No. So I'm not saying he's lying because he didn't write this book, but he's totally lying. Also, I love how the first thing he says is, as much as I might joke around. Like he's just saying, oh, well, you know, if you didn't like it, it's just a joke. I am not okay, whatever. Also, he's definitely... The reason he wrote this book was to offend people. That's the reason. Why else would he have wrote a book like this? Grift? Grift? What's that? He's just trying to make money off of his 15 minutes of fame.
Well, I mean, it's more like 4 years of fame. At least in, like, 15 minutes of fame, it makes sense, because, like, he just became truly popular.
15 minutes on a historical scale.
Yes, but...
like, listen, this guy's going to be a footnote in history at some point.
You could say that about, like, technically, you know, if you were to compare, I mean, if I was to like be like a very evolutionist person, I could say that the time that we've been around, like on Earth, is only 3 seconds if all universe was a day.
Okay.
But I don't believe in evolution, so actually it's more like we've been around for ever since the world has been created, but whatever. Finally, so we're getting to the last thing here. I guess I should probably include a note about the title of my book, because it's probably not a term you hear every day. What are you talking about? I hear that term every day.
Probably most people are not as extremely online as you are.
Whatever. In fact, if you're over the age of about 35, or you haven't spent the last few years on a college campus on Twitter, or in an asylum, and really who can tell the difference anymore, you probably have no idea why this book is called Triggered. Allow me to explain. I love how he says, you know, if you're over the age of 35 and haven't spent the last few years on a college campus on Twitter.
Twitter. He said or Twitter.
No, sure. On Twitter. It's on Twitter.
Sure.
It's on Twitter.
Campus, comma, on Twitter, comma, or in an asylum. Oh.
It's like...
It's whatever.
It's like... Did you know that Donald Trump is like one of the most like viewed Twitter accounts ever? Like, yeah. I'm not saying that's a bad thing, but if you're saying that being on Twitter is a bad thing, then maybe you should check
saying
yourself.
That Twitter is a place where this discourse exists, where people get triggered, but it's...
I mean, yeah, I get triggered, but I don't think that's an insult. I mean, everybody does, even this guy. That's why he wrote this book. Or, well, that's why he hired somebody to write this book. Today, as it appears on the internet, at least the term... today, as it appears on the internet, at least, the term trigger warning is used to describe something, say a tweet from my dad, that blows up the fragile sensibilities of the liberal Twitterverse. At the very least, it sets their hair on fire, and you know what, I have to stop.
You know, this is really only a right-wing interpretation of what a trigger warning is. Trigger warnings are used when you're about to describe something that could potentially be traumatizing for people, such as a description of rape or violence or death or something like that.
But now it's just like, oh, trigger warning, I'm about to say rude things about the left-wing politics.
No, he's... whatever. Yeah, nobody actually gets triggered by Donald Trump's tweets. Well, maybe some people do. That's not really what trigger warnings are used for.
Yeah, I mean, if by triggered, I mean, like, I do get really mad at most of his tweets, but that's not really triggered. That's just like...
Like, it's completely legitimate to warn people that you're about to talk about something that they might not be comfortable with because they have some trauma associated with it. And to, like, make fun of that practice, I think, points to a real lack of concern for the humanity of other people. It's just...
Are you really saying that Donald Trump Jr. has a lack of what did you say?
Concern for the humanity of other people?
Yeah, because, I mean, really, wow.
Well,
I mean, yeah, of course he does. He's like a guy that goes on and says, "Hey, Democrats are idiots. Fuck you. Bye." That's like what most of his speeches are like. Either that or him just sucking Donald Trump's dick.
I am not going to engage in this conversation with you if you're going to talk like that.
Yeah, okay. Sorry. It's just that that's like what he does in all of his speeches.
I've never actually heard Donald Trump Jr. give a speech.
Well, he has given them before. It's ridiculous. At the very least, it sets their hair on fire, which then just makes their hair look like Donald Trump's hair. And creates a minor news story for a few days, but at the worst, it moves them to real-life outrage and organized violence. When has Donald Trump's tweet ever caused organized violence? Isn't that like a riot or something?
Not as far as I know. It's never done, but I could be wrong.
I mean, I know that like organized like discourse or public shaming. Yeah, hey, sorry, we're recording something.
I have to interrupt for a second. Oh, I'm sorry. I'm leaving. Should I just text you?
Ask and before you ask, the freaking out is wildly disproportionate. While conservatives usually get worked up over important things such as the killing of babies or the stripping away of our natural rights as human beings, the liberals only get triggered at people shooting each other with guns in serious mass shootings, like, I don't know, all the ones that have happened at schools, and, those little priorities, like our Earth dying of,
I'm pretty sure that's not what he wrote. What did he write?
Yeah, of course it's not. It's just such as the killing of babies and stripping away of our natural rights as human beings. With liberals, the triggers tend to be much sillier. If you say capitalism is better than socialism, they freak the fuck out.
That's not what he wrote.
Okay, fine. He said they freak out. If my father says America is the greatest country in the world, they lose it. If you tell them the cat video they posted isn't that cute, they have a complete breakdown. I mean,
he's arguing against straw men. Like, really? No. He's not. That's just false. What he just wrote.
I don't know why he didn't attack AOC for that cow farting thing. Because I mean, even though that was actually kind of reasonable, it sounds really stupid. So I don't know why he didn't put that there in as an example. If I were writing the book, that would be something I would put in there. But whatever. With every passing day, the bar for the word, for what's considered triggered, gets lower and lower. For example, have you ever asked someone where they're from? Well, according to liberals, you can't do that anymore. It's called microaggressions. Don't worry, I'll explain these terms as we go. First of all, most people that are going to read this book know what microaggressions and triggered are. But that's not the definition of a microaggression. I think microaggressions are kind of stupid, but they are at least reasonable. Like, sometimes I understand them.
Yeah, I mean, it can be offensive to ask a person where they're from, but it's not inherently offensive to do that. It's just one of those things that you just have to be careful about.
And it's fine if people want to get offended by that. Also,
but that's also not the sort of thing that's going to cause a mass freak out on a large scale.
Yeah.
It's just not.
Microaggressions could be something like, clutching your bag if you go into an elevator with a black person. It's just something like, you shouldn't do it because it's dumb. But it's also dumb to complain about it. So what are we supposed to do? Let it happen or complain about it?
Well, I think there's a place for complaining about that kind of behavior. But at the same time, this is not the sort of thing that's going to cause, like I said, it could cause people to completely lose it. It's just not, yeah.
Also, I don't think America's the best planet. I don't think America's the best country on earth. I think it used to be, but now that Donald Trump's president, I think it's number 3. I mean, it's still good though. I'd say though that I would rather be in South Korea or Denmark.
Okay.
Those are better places to live right now. And when Robert Mueller says the President of the United States is not an agent of Russia, it was a little bit more complicated than that if you didn't read the
report?
Yeah.
No, I think that, if you actually read the report, it says pretty clearly that Russia was working to impact the 2016 election, and that Donald Trump actually did obstruct justice.
But, of course they're going to just ignore that and just try to sum it up. It's the report was very funny, though, I'll tell you that. Which, call me crazy, seems as though it should be good news for everyone, no, this is just a stain. It's not, they melt down and console each other like they did when they found out Al Franken was a creepy pervert. Who's Al Franken?
He was a senator from Minnesota.
What did he do?
He groped some people.
Was he a Democrat?
Mm-hmm.
Ah, so that's why they're not mentioning the fact that Donald Trump has had 70 sexual harassment accusations. Or was it 70 or was it less?
I thought it was somewhere in the 30s, but whatever.
Well, 30,
I don't know.
even 30, that's still pretty high. Maybe I'm wrong. I don't know. I know it was somewhere above 10. I know it was above 20. Okay. So because my book will contain sections with a number of these so-called dangerous ideas, I thought it best to include a little warning of my own. Though it isn't illegal yet to discuss triggered ideas like this in a book, who knows where we'll be by the time this goes to print. I could be brought up on charges just for having an opinion of or a picture of myself on the cover. Well, I don't think he's been put on charges. Oh, look at that.
I just don't think. What is he trying to say? Okay, so by the time he publishes this, it's going to be illegal. How could it possibly? What? It just doesn't make any sense.
I mean,
like, what? How would that even work? Where he would not? Where he would be? Like, how would it be made illegal for him to express opinions?
Yeah, it's really stupid. Well,
like, who would make that illegal?
I don't know. Who would ever want to make that illegal? Like, there's not a single person I can think of that would want. Well, that's kind of a good place to leave it off on, but let's talk about what we've read so far.
Okay.
So we've read that the left thrives on hate. They're big narcissistic, huge bigots. What did he say exactly?
Well, no, he just said that they get triggered really easily.
Yeah, because they're fucking snowflake
His son?
millennials.
Excuse me.
Come on. If you're gonna read this book, you've already heard him swear, and I'm not gonna try and make it super vulgar, but like it's just like me being me. So, you know, yeah, we all know that the left thrives on hate and wants to silence us, but...
Well, that's not really the point that he made. The point that he made was that social justice warriors, whoever they may be, get triggered by the discussions of, I don't know, capitalism or something. But it's complete straw man. It's ridiculous. Like, I don't know who these people are that he thinks are talking this way. And if they are, there are people, maybe there are, they represent
very
extremely small numbers of people and are probably just doing it for rhetorical effect. I just think that he just... So far I have not actually recognized anybody that I would identify with the left in anything that he said there. Like he's arguing against this cartoon perception that a lot of people on the right have of the left, and it's just not accurate.
And I think that if we're to say, like, you know, if you go online, you're gonna find some idiots that are trying to get attention by offending people, and idiots that are trying to get attention by being offended by everything. But those amount of people are very far, and they're very small amounts of people like that. And even though you could say that people trying to offend people are on the right and people trying to get offended are on the left, it really doesn't matter. It could apply to both. And also, it's not really a thing that happens. And I think that having them argue is a bad idea. I think that honestly we should just try and, you know, have them, you know, get popular for doing something actually, you know, wholesome, like reviewing movies like me. That's why I decided to talk about politics for 45 minutes. Because I know that all 4 people of the people that watch my reviews are loving my political opinions. I know that is something that everybody will love. I'm hoping to do something kind of like this called Louder with Chowder.
I don't know what that is.
It's where we watch Louder with Crowder videos and just eat chowder.
I'm not going to watch
do
Steven
that.
Crowder video.
Dang it.
I'm not going to do that.
Fine. Okay. So next time, we'll get through another page and a half, and we'll keep doing that for how many pages is this thing? 293 pages.
All right.
Okay, well,